What's up, hello, and welcome. My name is Lou, and I love to talk about superpowers. In today's video, we'll be discussing the power known as electricity manipulation or electrokinesis. In this video, I'll be going over all the tidbits in regards to this power, like how does it work, what things it allows you to do. I'll be also discussing who the best and worst users are, as well as giving my overall scores in general for this power. Now, I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Let's just go ahead and stop kicking the tires and dive right in. Electricity manipulation, or electrokinesis, allows its user to create, shape, and manipulate electricity or lightning. This allows the user to do things like, of course, discharge and absorb lightning. You can think of characters like Johnny Bolt from Super Crooks, or, I mean, hell, you can think of pretty much any type of Pikachu or any Pokemon character. They have the same power. But it also allows the user to do things like summoning lightning from the skies, with more advanced uses, of course, and create their own thunderstorms. You can think of characters like Sasuke Uchiha from Naruto. Now, his a little bit more complicated, but I'm gonna give him this because he deserves his flowers. Of course, with this ability, allowing your characters to shape the lightning any way, shape, or form they want. You can think of characters like Kakashi from Naruto, who, he created lightning dogs, lightning clones, things like that, or any of the numerous Cloud Village abilities that you see on the show as well. With more advanced usage, the users also have the ability to read thoughts via the electrical signals in the brain. I don't know how it works. I'm not a science guy. I'm learning as I go, but that seems insane. But we'll let them have it. It's still insane, but whatever. Even crazier than that, the users of electricity manipulation also have the ability to manipulate others via the electrical pulses of their nerves. So you can actually puppeteer people via electricity. Users also have the ability to affect electronics, either supercharging them or, completely draining the battery, things like that. I have to refer to him again, but Johnny Bolt from the Super Crooks series on Netflix. If you haven't seen Super Crooks, do yourself a favor, watch it. It's actually a pretty cool, pretty snazzy show. I'm about 8 episodes in, I believe. It's really good. He's a cool character. Anyway, effectively, you're your own power company. You don't ever have to pay a monthly fee if you had this power. You essentially can just charge anything or watch anything because you control all the electricity in this area. Now, before we go any further, there is something that we have to, differentiate between, because now electricity manipulation and electromagnetism, they're two sides of the same coin, but they're not. Now, electricity manipulation that we're talking about today is strictly just the electrical effect, like lightning, electricity, just electricity in general. We're not talking about any type of magnetisms or anything like that. So unfortunately, certain characters can't be in the running for best user. I'm not gonna say who, but when we get there, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But of course, like all superpowers, this one is no different. It has its weaknesses, and we're gonna dive right into that now. All right, first thing, we gotta talk about anybody with the ability of resistance or immunity to electricity is instantly gonna be a problem for you. You can pretty much box anybody, but anybody has your hard counter. Obviously, they're gonna have your number, and this power is no different. So you want to avoid those at all costs. If push comes to shove, you get hit by a lightning bolt, now you have electricity manipulation. Just saying, the world's had crazier things happen.
I'm just saying, sometimes you get a knock on the head, you get special powers. It happens all the time. Read a comic book, okay?
Next thing we gotta discuss the fact that most electronics in your hands, until you get the control over this power that you desperately need to be any kind of threat or any credible force, everything in your hands is probably gonna get fried. So smartphones, computers, TVs, your car, all this stuff is susceptible to your power, meaning you can just touch something and instantly shut it off. Another limitation we have to discuss is ferromagnetic metals. These are metals that might redirect electricity at you. You got your iron, your nickel, and your cobalts, and most types of steels, they kind of work as like a hard counter. They're not like as crazy as like your rubbers or woods or something like that, but they can, present a problem for you. Next up, we got to discuss the fact that it may become insulated and non-conductive with certain materials. This is your rubber, your silicate, air. Those type of materials, if you present probably a real hard stop. Like, of course, you got your ferromagnetic, like I discussed earlier, but these are also kind of your hard stop. I think of characters like a Nell versus a character like Luffy or anything like that, where that was pretty much a shutout because of Luffy's rubber body. So you got to deal with that kind of stuff. Last thing I want to discuss before we move on is any kinesis or any kind of manipulation ability you do have to keep in mind that you do need to put in the work. You have to study, you have to become better with this power. Because depending on what type of, thing that you want to get done with it, you need speed, you need precision, you need to understand the distance of this power. You just aren't gonna wake up and be Static Shock or Uncle Iroh or whoever. You're not gonna wake up and be those type of characters. It does take time, and you do have to understand it. So there's obviously a huge learning curve. This is one of those powers where you have to literally sit down and practice for possibly hours, if not days. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the overall scores for this power. I got it broken down into 5 categories. We got versatility, we have creativity, we have destructive capacity, we have combat potential, and of course we have daily use. I'll break them down into scores of 10, and I'll give my overall score at the end. Kicking things off with versatility. Versatility-wise, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Personally, especially in an urban environment or anything like that, I don't see you really have much problem adjusting and just overall bettering your situation. I really don't see you getting trapped on the street and not, find a way to make money with this power, either legally or illegally. But that's up to you how you use the power. It's not necessarily power is evil, just the person that's using it. Anyway, so 8 out of 10 for versatility. Next up, we gotta talk about creativity. And once again, I gave another 8 out of 10. I know that most of you guys, especially a lot of you guys who love this stuff like I do and might have done certain research and certain powers and certain things, you might be more creative than me. You might think it's a 10 out of 10. And I can think of a lot of creative ways of using this power, at least 8 out of 10 work. So yeah, I feel like roughly 8 out of 10 is still a good number for this power. Next up, we gotta talk about destructive capacity, or DC. I mean, it's 10, so I don't know what else you want me to say. Summoning lightning in any situation, or the ability to discharge electricity in 99.9% of situations is pretty bad news for everybody. So yeah, it's gonna get a 10 out of 10 for me for destructive capacity. Moving on, we're gonna talk about combat potential. And let's be real, it's a 10 out of 10. Have you seen any recent shonens, or not even recent, have you seen any shonen at all? Or if you don't like anime, have you seen any live action superhero property? You got your X-Men, you have, Black Lightning, you have Black Adam for some reason, I guess. You have Shazam. You have all these characters who just use this power to its utmost, and they mostly just fight with it. The last category I want to discuss with you guys is daily use. Now this is all based on my opinion. Every score is. But this is based on how often I use it in my everyday life. Meaning with my job, with my background, my hobbies, everything like that. So if you think it deserves a different score, be my guest. But for me, it's gonna get a 10 out of 10. Any power that allows me to summon a lightning bolt with abandon is gonna get a 10 from me. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense because I don't know when I'll ever need to use that. You shouldn't use that on the road when you have road rage. You shouldn't use that on your nosy ass neighbors who get on your nerves and are really loud. You shouldn't use that for violent means, mostly. But it's kind of like being able to fly. You're gonna show the girl that you can fly, or whatever you're into. You're gonna show the person you're interested in that you can fly, right? That's how I kind of feel about this power. I'm gonna show off. This is a show-offy power. Just saying. That brings this score to a 46 out of 50 overall, which brings us to an A tier or A plus ability. I kind of feel like that's pretty spot on. I feel like this is an A class ability. There might be a few of you guys who think it's S class, and even now I'm thinking like maybe I should go higher with versatility and creativity. Maybe I should do that. But right now I'm feeling like A is perfect for where it needs to be. All right, now we're gonna dive right into who I believe the best and worst user. And just like every video I've done so far, worst is first. And to me, the worst users, I kind of feel like I shouldn't say this because I feel like the show just dropped on Netflix, at least at the time of this recording. And to badmouth these characters would be kind of messed up. But I'm gonna, I gotta stand by my word. I gotta stand on business, as they say. And I believe the worst users of any kind of electricity manipulation or electricity power is gonna be the firebenders. I'm sorry, I love the Avatar universe. I even like the Legend of Korra, but they haven't done anything that really would put them in the upper echelons of like this ability. Even with the characters I don't consider like, you know, completely electricity manipulators, like, you know, your static shocks and your you know, your storms and Thors. Like, those characters do have the ability, but they also have add-ons. Like, so Thor has like weather power, just like Storm, and Static has electromagnetic power. So it's like kind of like not fair. But for the firebenders, they have fire and they can use lightning. They can use lightning, they're not lightning users, if that makes sense. To me, the firebenders are just too basic.
You're basic.
I don't feel like they do enough. Even redirecting and absorbing lightning and doing stuff like that, that's cool, but they haven't done enough to really impress me. So yeah, firebenders are the worst users for me. The best user is Cole McGrath from Infamous. Yeah, Infamous. Now, Dia just using his electricity abilities. We're not talking about any other abilities he gained from the game or anything like that. But he can do things like heal himself and others. He can fly via creating platforms to step on. He can travel at hypersonic speeds and dematerialize into power lines. Pretty sick. But the craziest thing is he can hit with a force of 15 supernovas. I'm not a physicist or a science, you know, guy, but I do know that supernova is a big deal, and he can hit with a force of 15 of those. I'm just saying, I don't really think any other user is gonna do much against that. I mean, if you think differently, please let me know in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure that's a one-hit, one-kill kind of situation. Thank you so very much for watching this video to the very end. I greatly appreciate the time you stayed with me, as well as everybody that showed up for our last video on blood manipulation. I cannot tell you how insane it was to see those numbers going up and all the likes and the comments. I don't know what to say. I am just without words, besides just me stumbling right now on camera. But I'm so appreciative. Me and my editor, we were just, you know, texting back and forth like, oh my God, I can't believe this. That many people liked it. This many people subscribed. It was just fantastic, and you guys are the best. I just really appreciate it. In any case, if you do me such a huge favor as to like this video, subscribe to the channel, as well as leave a comment on your thoughts in regards to electrokinesis or electricity manipulation, and you know, just overall, what do you think? Like, do you think his power is awesome? Do you think it's trash? Do you think there are better characters I could use or worse characters I could use for my rankings? Just let me know. Any kind of information you provide is greatly appreciated. But with that being said, thank you so very much for your time. And until next time, peace and I love you.